Thank you so much, Comrade CPO. Esteemed members of the Fourth Estate and all comrades here gathered, I humbly greet you and welcome you all to this press conference that we have called for as the Front for Economic Emancipation in Zimbabwe, so that we are able to have a conversation with the people of Zimbabwe on what is happening to our fellow compatriots who are in South Africa, and also on what we think has to be done or has to happen in regards to that said situation that some of our people are facing in South Africa. Kindly allow me to ask all of you comrades and all our revolutionary economic troopers that before we get down to the business of the day, we observe a minute of silence so that we are able to mourn the brutal and barbaric killing of two young Zimbabweans, namely Mboneni Ncube and Elvis Nyati, both of whom died very painful deaths locally and outside Zimbabwean borders. We pay our deepest condolences to the family of the deceased. May their dear souls rest in peace, and may also the good Lord comfort their families. So may we all rise and observe a minute of silence before we proceed. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, so before we also proceed with our business of the day, on a lighter note, you see, the Front for Economic Emancipation in Zimbabwe is a people's movement. We appreciate what is good and also criticize what we think is negative and bad. So we would want to take this opportunity to congratulate one of our socialites, my sister Feli, better known as my Titi. Yes, vamwe vedu tiri kufara, vamwe tinenge takabatikana. That's natural, that sometimes others find it very difficult to celebrate other people's success. But you know, in life, muna ufanele kuva negodo. Learn to celebrate when others succeed, so that they will also celebrate with you when you also succeed. But sadly, we also then find ourselves mourning after the crash of the helicopter that ferried Sisifeli, resulting in the death of the pilot. We also pay our condolences to the family of the deceased, and may also his soul rest in peace. So, comrades, now getting to the business of the day. We, as the Front for Economic Emancipation in Zimbabwe, called for this press conference, like I said, to have this address to the people of Zimbabwe. This press conference is not going to be one of the usual talk shows where we just talk and talk without proffering solutions, without putting forward what we think should be practical measures to deal with the problems that we would have highlighted. So we are here as the Front for Economic Emancipation in Zimbabwe to make sure that after highlighting the problems that we think are affecting our people locally and even in the diaspora, at the end of the press conference, we are also going to proffer practical solutions on how we are supposed to move as a people, on how we are supposed to deal with these issues, and on how we, as the movement, plan to execute our proposals in terms of dealing with the challenges that our people are facing socially, economically, and also politically. So this is why we are gathered here today. So like I said, we shall first highlight the numerous challenges that we face and then provide interventions to all those challenges at the end of the presentations, because we believe that our challenges do not require a one-size-fits-all approach. So to start with, we are all aware of the sad situation that our brothers and sisters are finding themselves in and are facing in South Africa, which situation has led to the murder and burning of Elvis Nyati. We cannot just exist to issue out statements after statements, then fold our hands and go back to sleep and wait for the next tragedy so that we can then issue other heavily worded statements without seeking to address these problems and finding lasting solutions. So the situation before us demands more than just press statements and press conferences, which may be viewed as nothing but acts of political expediency and publicity. It is therefore against this realization that we, the Front for Economic Emancipation in Zimbabwe, FEEZ, as a political party that does not merely exist as a conspiracy to grab or retain power, but being an action-oriented, results-driven, and solution-seeking movement, decided to search for practical solutions in order to act and avert possibly widespread tragic degeneration of the South African xenophobic attacks on our people. Indeed, we believe that we need to pay serious attention to the plight of our people locally and internationally. Firstly, it is important to realize that Mbondeni Ncube, a victim of political violence in the just ended by-elections, was a Zimbabwean first before he belonged to a political party. And his case requires a serious follow-up by all progressive Zimbabweans across the political divide to ensure that justice is served without fear or favor. Worryingly, we have been reading that there is alleged victimization of relatives and witnesses so that they do not speak out or testify in this case. Mbondeni can no longer stand nor speak for himself, nor demand that his case receives deserving attention. So we need to stand, push, and speak for him. This requires more than just discussing these issues on social media. If ever justice is to be served, we all have to get involved, not for political expediency, but genuine love and call for justice, as well as to put an end to politically motivated violence. So we decided to tackle the Mbondeni issue first before we bring the people's attention to the case of Elvis Nyati. As the saying goes, that charity begins at home. So we cannot then come out and denounce the violence that happened in South Africa, the brutal killing that happened to Elvis Nyati, without also condemning what happened in Zimbabwe. We released a statement, yes, but we had not had an opportunity to hold a press conference to condemn what happened to a fellow citizen, Mbondeni Ncube, because we believe and feel that his attack was unwarranted. His death is regrettable. We cannot condone loss of life, no matter our political differences. We don't believe that our differences must degenerate to a point where we have to kill each other. So we, as a party, decided to say we continue to mourn with the family of Mbonen Mube. We continue to mourn with the family, the political family of the Citizens Coalition for Change, because we are all Zimbabweans despite our differences. Fellow Zimbabweans, it is a fact that there is deepening poverty everywhere in Zimbabwe, and the gap between the rich and the poor is widening as the rich are getting richer while the poor are getting poorer. There is no hope at all, none. Fortunately or unfortunately, poverty knows no political boundaries. We are all being affected, whether you support FEEZ, you support the MDC, you support Zanu PF, or you support CCC, or whichever party that you belong to. Because the current situation is affecting all of us indiscriminately, except maybe for a few linked or related to the powers that be, who have unhindered access to national resources and economic opportunities, which they are abusing by stealing and looting from the poor. The exploitation of the poor is worsening by the day. It is becoming extremely difficult to put a meal on the table for the poor, of which the poor are the ones who constitute the majority of our people. However, the poverty that we find ourselves in is not natural phenomena, but man-made, as it is a product of unjust economic practices which have resulted in the glaring economic inequalities, which are a product of massive economic manipulation, exploitation, and the exclusion of the weak and poor in our society by organized cartel and selfish capitalists. Faced with these growing economic inequalities at home, not less than 2.5 million Zimbabweans have become economic refugees around the globe, including in South Africa and in other neighboring countries in the region, in a bid to earn a living and fend for families back home. Today, these millions of people find themselves being pushed out of South Africa. While here at home, we have an almost similar situation where we are also being pushed out of our ancestral lands to pave way for the Chinese and other non-Africans, as they have been given the green light by the authorities to do so with impunity. As Zimbabweans locally and abroad, we now find ourselves between a hard rock and a hard surface. Those of our people working in Chinese firms are being harassed, forced to work with no protective clothing, and are being heavily underpaid. And all this is happening in the full glare of the authorities. We have to make it clear here and now that we don't hate the Chinese, as we just do not agree with their conduct here. The way they are behaving here is not how they conduct themselves in their own country. Their total disregard for our laws, customs, and culture cannot be tolerated anymore. We have no problems with investors, but we have very serious challenges with abusers, looters, and exploiters. The situation at hand requires us to act, and I'm here to say that as the Fund for Economic Emancipation in Zimbabwe, in collaboration with fellow progressive Zimbabweans, we are going to act without fail. So, if you look at this situation where you also have corruption and looting becoming the order of the day, where the situation is getting worse with each passing day, where we are witnessing a threatening frenzy, where those related or linked to the current leadership are scrambling for an opportunity to steal and loot, as each one of them is fighting to get a seat at the table, as the majority of them strongly believe and feel that the time is running out for them and that they must not miss this last supper, to a point that they are now calling the looting and the stealing the last supper, because they feel that they must grab and loot everything within reach before it is too late. So we have to organize ourselves in the same manner that these cartels, these corrupt leaders are also organized, because if we fail to organize ourselves as the downtrodden, if we fail to put our act together as the impoverished masses of Zimbabwe, then it means that we are going to continue to face this situation for a very long time. Because as I speak today, cabinet ministers, including deputy ministers, have each been allocated between $300,000 US and $500,000 to buy mansions for themselves in the low-density suburbs. And as we speak, they are busy identifying those mansions. All this is happening when the ordinary taxpayer cannot secure $1 to buy Pain Easy or a paracetamol to ease their pain, as the hospitals have no basic drugs. The executive is rewarding itself when the government worker is being heavily underpaid. The farmers are being manipulated and exploited and also being underpaid. The small-scale miners all over Zimbabwe are being harassed, manipulated, and taken advantage of. Our vendors are being harassed and tormented as they try to eke out a living. It seems the authorities are out and determined to punish us, the poor, because we are in serious trouble. Despite the deepening poverty everywhere, our government finds it very noble to hike fees in all tertiary institutions as they continue to commercialize education, which they say is a right, but do not want an ordinary person to get it. Obviously, because they don't care at all, because their children are studying outside Zimbabwe. So it also then means that we must put our act together to confront this problem and help save the future of Zimbabwe, as this commercialization of education is an attack on current and future generations. Fellow Zimbabweans, I may not want to waste much of your time preaching to you about the difficulties that we continue to face, because it is a public secret, as we all know what we are facing on a daily basis, which includes unprecedented levels of unemployment, the economic exclusion of the masses, the exploitation of the workers. There are no tangible deliverables by the central government and also local government everywhere. Our economic resources continue to be privatized and are being sold to Western and Eastern capitalists for a song, and proceeds are being directed into the pockets of individuals. We are all aware of the issues to do with the non-transparency and the absence of accountability in everything that the government is doing and in all government dues. So, faced with all these situations, Zimbabweans were left with no option but to become economic refugees in neighboring countries. Our people had to run away from their own homes, leaving behind their families, to go and stay in unbearable conditions in neighboring countries. But now, they find themselves being tormented. They find themselves being harassed. They find themselves being burnt in foreign lands, far away from home, far away from their families. And what worries us today is the lack of appreciation of the current government in the urgency of this matter. Because we believe that the attack that our people are going through in South Africa requires an urgent attention by the authorities. But for the authorities, they are behaving like it's normal. We have more than 2 million people whose lives are threatened daily. But we don't have a caring government. All they do is just issue a press statement without even elaborating on what tangible plans they have put in place, or they are going to put in place for the sake of our people in South Africa. So this is what has forced us as the opposition to then say we cannot continue to fold our hands. So initially, we decided that we were going to hold a peaceful protest at the South African embassy to register our displeasure over the treatment that our people are having in South Africa, to show the South African authorities that we are not in agreement with their response, the way they are treating Zimbabwean nationals. So we wrote to the police in compliance with MOPA. This is our application to the police, notifying them that we intend to have a peaceful protest at the South African embassy. And we got a response just this afternoon from them that no, we cannot proceed with the protest. I will quote I'll quote a paragraph from their response. They say, please be advised that I'm not in a position to sanction the event due to the following reason. You did not comply with section 7.2.5 of the Maintenance of Peace and Order Act, chapter 11.23. And we're looking at the quoted section of the law. It says we must clearly state the place of the protest, which we did in this application, to say the gathering point is the South African embassy, the place of protest is the South African embassy. But now they say we should have clearly stated, and we don't know how. We should have explained to them. We don't know how we should have described the South African embassy. We didn't aim to cause harm to anyone. We clearly mentioned that ours was a peaceful protest, so that we are also able to hand over our petition to the South African ambassador or to a delegated official of the embassy. But we have been denied that opportunity. But anyway, we are still discussing with the leadership of the movement and the other stakeholders to see how we are going to proceed, to see if we can pursue other avenues so that we continue with the protest tomorrow. So we will advise Zimbabweans by day end on how we are going to proceed. But besides the protest, we also said if they are going to maintain that we must not get an opportunity to protest, we are also going to come with a delegation of Zimbabweans comprising of our leaders from the Front for Economic Emancipation in Zimbabwe and other progressive political parties and other citizens' organizations, so that we seek audience with the South African embassy officials so that they can transmit our plea and our message to their leadership in South Africa, especially to President Ramaphosa. Secondly, we are also going to write tomorrow to the Zimbabwean president to ask him to make an urgent visit to South Africa for purposes of engaging his South African counterpart on this matter. If indeed President Mnangagwa is a listening president, he has to take this message seriously, that the lives of millions of young Zimbabweans across the Limpopo are in danger. You cannot continue to ignore their plight. You have to go there and talk to your counterpart. So we are going to take the Zimbabwean government to task to also demand that they make a public address. We saw them making daily addresses when they were faced with peaceful protests of the 31st of July, 2020. Making press conferences, having press conferences after press conferences, releasing press statements after press statements. So we are also going to take them to task to demand that they make a public address specifically dedicated to addressing the issues that millions of Zimbabweans face in South Africa. We think that this matter deserves more than that. Then we are also going to, as a party, besides approaching government, we are also going to take the ZANU-PF party to task as the governing party to engage their ANC counterparts as the ruling party in South Africa. ZANU-PF cannot just release a press statement. They are the party in government. We demand that they do more than just issuing a press statement. We saw the South African comrades, the ANC comrades, coming to Zimbabwe to engage ZANU-PF in 2020. So, we take this opportunity to challenge the ZANU-PF government, the ZANU-PF party, not to only be concerned about wanting to get 5 million votes in 2023. Deal with the issues of the people in South Africa. The ANC cannot listen to us. We are an opposition party. We believe that they can listen to you more than they can do to an opposition party. So we are going to wait and see if ZANU-PF really cares about Zimbabweans. We have already started also engaging our fellow comrades down south, progressive movements in South Africa, notably the economic freedom fighters as led by CIC Julius Selo Malema, so that they continue to stand firm in the defense of fellow Africans in South Africa, while least we on the Zimbabwean side work on dealing with situations that are causing Zimbabweans to run away from Zimbabwe and be in South Africa as economic refugees. Comrades, as the Front for Economic Emancipation in Zimbabwe, we believe in telling each other the truth. Nyika haivakwe nekutaurirana nhema. We condemn, yes, the barbaric acts being perpetrated by those operating under the banner Dudula, of taking the law into their hands, of harassing killing and burning our people. But we also have to be realistic with ourselves and say that we cannot continue to say South Africa must continue to look after our people. It's unsustainable. That is the truth. You may say whatever that you may want to say about what I'm saying here today, but that is the truth. We have to find ways to deal with our own situation back here. We cannot blame those who ran away from Zimbabwe and became economic refugees in South Africa. We cannot blame them. But equally so, we cannot blame the South African government for saying we cannot continue to house Zimbabweans, more than 2 million people. Yes, we did it in Zimbabwe. We housed Zambians, we housed Mozambicans. At some point, we also housed South Africans during their struggle. But we cannot force them to appreciate us. If they think that they have had enough of us in their country, okay, we accept that. But all we do now is to ask them not to kill our people. I think there are other ways of dealing with the situation than for the ANC leadership to incite South Africans to kill Zimbabweans, to kill foreigners. No, we cannot. We cannot condone that. Yes, we accept Zimbabweans must come back home because the host country is saying they cannot continue to accommodate our people. There is nothing that we can do about that. That's a fact. What we have to do now is, those of us who are in Zimbabwe must start to work on the ground to make sure that our brothers and sisters who are in South Africa, when they eventually come back home, they find somewhere to start from with their lives. So what are we going to do? In the same manner that the South Africans are saying they cannot continue to look after our people, we are taking their opportunities, we are stretching their social infrastructure. They are saying our brothers and sisters are criminals. We don't want to argue about that, but we don't think that it is true. We think that it is very wrong to put a tag on criminality. Let crime be dealt with as crime. So in order for us to be able to prepare for our brothers and sisters when they come back home, we are going to embark on an economic revolution to take back what rightfully belongs to us. The first thing that we are going to do is to ask our government to take over ownership, 100% ownership of the Zimplatz plant in Ngezi. The ANC comrades are exploiting our resources. They are exploiting our platinum here in Zimbabwe, Ngezi. We are being left with nothing. We had not wanted to go that route because we thought that we are one big African family. But our South African brothers have taught us the hard way So we are going to say Zimplats has to be nationalized. They have been exporting raw platinum because platinum is a group of minerals. They have been giving us peanuts as tax and royalties, if ever they were paying royalties. We had allowed them to feed their factories and industries with our raw materials, and we are going to put a stop to all that. And yes, we can. For those who doubt our capacity to cause an upset, then watch the space. These are not just empty threats. Zimbabweans deserve to benefit from their platinum. The Ngezi community deserves not to get corporate social responsibility from Ngezi, but to own those resources. Future generations of Zimbabweans must enjoy whatever is coming out of our minerals, out of the exploitation of our minerals. So, we are saying to the ANC-linked capitalists, those who are exploiting our resources at Ngezi, that your time is up. You pack your bags and go. Leave us with our resources. Because you are the ones who have been inciting your people to kill our people for taking menial jobs in South Africa. Are the menial jobs equivalent to what you have been taking from us? Definitely not. Vana vanga vari kudya rifa renyika isu tichidya nhoko dzezvironda, vachidya vachikora sehochi isu tichiondoroka sembwa negwembe, and we are putting a stop to that. So what are we going to do? On the 18th of April, when we are supposed to be celebrating our Independence Day, we are going to be in Ngezi. We'll be in Ngezi to celebrate our independence in Ngezi, to ignite an unstoppable economic revolution, which will start at Zimplats, taking back what rightfully belongs to us. We are also talking to our comrades over the border to see how we can make sure that the South African capitalists also feel the pain that they've inflicted on poor Zimbabweans in South Africa. So we hope and pray that the Zimbabwean government and the current management at Zimplats are going to cooperate with us. Because if they don't, we'll move to plan B. And if plan B fails, we'll move to plan C until we achieve. We are tired. We cannot continue to sustain a horse-rider relationship. This has to stop. So that's one, in terms of how we are also going to respond to what these guys are doing to us. Because they are doing this for political expediency. Because the ANC wants to win votes in South Africa, while at least putting the lives of our people at risk. So, we are going to look for new investors. If anyone in the Zimbabwean government blocks our efforts, if the Zanu PF government blocks our efforts, then instead of directing our anger at these exploiters, then we are going to redirect it at the correct target. So Zanu PF must get out of the way. They must allow us to take over what rightfully belongs to us. And we will do that without shedding blood of any foreign national. After liberating Zimplatz, then we will move to the next battle. Because it's not going to end with Zimplatz. It's going to be a countrywide wave where we are going to demand that which belongs to us comes back to us. Then what is it also that we are going to do? Besides engaging the South African authorities at the South African embassy, asking the Zimbabwean president to go to South Africa to engage President Ramaphosa, after taking Zanu PF to task so that they can engage their ANC counterparts, we are also going to make sure that besides taking over Zimplatz without disrupting production, we are also going to put in motion the creation of an empowerment fund for our people. This we are going to do through the National Affirmative Action Assembly of Zimbabwe, which is an apolitical and economic movement which we registered as a trust in April 2021. So we are going to activate the National Affirmative Action Assembly of Zimbabwe so that it fights on behalf of Zimbabweans. We deliberately decided to activate this platform so that this fight does not become a partisan fight, because NAS accommodates every Zimbabwean despite political differences, because NAS will be able to fight against monopoly capital and promote grassroots empowerment, while also ensuring that communities take charge of their economic resources and benefit from them, unlike the current situation where an elite has taken over ownership of what is supposed to be national resources, e.g. the Chiaza diamonds, the Mzarapan oil and gas projects, the Goromons lithium project. So, like I said, what has happened in South Africa is becoming an awakening call to us to take back what rightfully belongs to us. So we are activating the National Affirmative Action of Zimbabwe, which can accommodate people from any political party, so that we embark together on this economic revolution. If you look at the Chiadzwa case, Zimbabweans do not know how their diamonds were managed. They do not even know how the money from Chiadzwa was spent. So we are going to demand and make sure that all other mining projects in Zimbabwe are nationalized, so that Zimbabweans can benefit fully from their mineral resources. Why we say so? Look at the Goromonzi lithium case, where a few individuals sold the Goromonzi lithium mine to a tune of around $500 million. The lithium mine was sold to Huayou, a Chinese company, for almost 380 million US dollars. And this one is an Australian company. They took away 380 million. Why? Should we continue to condone that? No. When people in Chiadzwa, people in Manicaland got disturbed by Cyclone Idai, they could not even look after themselves after having been owning diamonds. Go to Mtoko, the granite. What do they have to show for the granite? Nothing. Go to Mazoe, where gold was taken, to Shamba, to Bindura, to Kwekwe. Everywhere else, our resources are being exploited for the benefit of a few individuals. While at least Zimbabwe languish in poverty. So through the National Affirmative Action Assembly of Zimbabwe, we are going to push for the establishment of what we call the National Empowerment Initiative, which must establish an empowerment fund to the tune of not less than $3 billion US. We are not saying this is what we are going to push for when we are voted into power in 2023. No. This is what we are going to be pushing for from now till we achieve. So that when this fund is established, Zimbabweans coming back from South Africa get access to capital, to start their own ventures, to create employment, to fund their projects. It's very possible. Because if the Zimbabwean government could commit to raise $3.5 billion for the compensation of a mere 3,500 wives and create a debt for future generations, why is it not going to be possible to create a $3 billion empowerment fund for Zimbabweans? We are not going to accept these window dressing antics by the authorities, where the Zanu government comes up with a facility of a mere $1 million US, when the party itself has mobilized $150 million US for them to win an election in 2023. So if the selling of just one mine could raise $500 million in Goromonzi, what about if we sit down to properly organize ourselves to make sure that we create an empowerment fund? Do you think it's not going to be possible to raise $3 billion? It's very, very possible. Because one of those people who has got a 6% shareholding in the Goromonzi lithium mine is being given $42 million US for his 6% in that mine. Now we have gas deposits in Ilupane, in Mzarabani, oil in Mzarabani, we have diamonds all over, we have gold all over, we have chrome all over. All the minerals that you can think of, we have. So we are going to make sure that we push that the resources do not benefit an elite. that the resources benefit the indigenous masses, that the resources be used to put in place an empowerment fund for the genuine economic empowerment of the indigenous masses. So that is going to be a game changer, because Zimbabweans cannot afford to go and have a loan from these commercial banks. So we are going to engage our listening president, and we hope that he is going to support this initiative. It's not going to be a ZANU-PF initiative. It's not going to be a FEEZ initiative. It's going to be a citizens' initiative backed and supported by the government, so that the resources that we are going to pull together are not going to be abused, so that there is going to be accountability and transparency in that whole initiative. So besides the other initiatives, the other interventions, this is also what we are embarking on now going forward. So every Zimbabwean from across the political divide is welcome into this initiative. We are going to welcome your brains, we are going to welcome your opinions, your views on this, so that we can perfect this idea, so that Zimbabweans benefit out of their resources when the National Empowerment Initiative Fund to the tune of $3 billion is put in place. Then the other initiative that we are going to push, that the other intervention that we are going to make sure that Zimbabweans being pushed out of South Africa do not come to suffer, but that they also have access to their resources, is that we are going to push for the redistribution of agricultural land. We wrote a letter to President Mnangagwa demanding the release of the land audit report. He has not responded to us to this day. We copied the Minister of Agriculture, we copied the Zimbabwe Lands Commission, we copied the Parliament of Zimbabwe. We only got a response from Parliament of Zimbabwe saying that we didn't follow their petition procedure as laid out in their standing rules and orders. So we are going to do that. But even if they do not produce or release the land audit report, we are going to push to make sure that the land is redistributed from the hands of an indigenous minority to the hands of the indigenous majority. We did not push the minority white commercial farmers so that a ZANU-PF minority, a ZANU-PF elite takes over. No. When our parents went to war, they said, nyika yedu ya Zimbabwe ndimo matakazvarirwa, vana mai navana baba ndimo mavari. Tinoda Zimbabwe neupfumi hwayo hwese, simuka Zimbabwe. So, the fast track land reform program was a very good initiative in the first place, yes. But it doesn't end there. So, those who have been saying land American akusisina, we say to you here and now that is a joke. This land doesn't belong to you. It doesn't belong to ZANU-PF. It doesn't belong to FEEZ. It doesn't belong to anyone. It does belong to all Zimbabweans. Some will argue and say redistribution of land would disturb production. If production was of primary concern, then ZANU-PF should not have embarked on the land reform program, because the whites who occupied the farms then produced far much better than what is happening now. The idea was about correcting land ownership imbalances. So we can't have a situation where someone is looking for a hectare, where someone is seeking 5 hectares and cannot have that, when an individual has got hundreds, if not thousands, of hectares. So whether you are Zanu PF, you are FEEZ, you are MDC, you are CCC or whatever, we are inviting you to unite with us as we embark on the land redistribution exercise. We ask the Zimbabwean government to collaborate with us, to cooperate with us, because we do not intend to disrupt the farming activities. We want the redistribution to be done peacefully and in an orderly manner. But if that doesn't happen, then we'll be left with no option but to make sure that we cause a situation that will force them to come to the table. So, we have no sacred cows. What is our target? Our target is to make sure that before Zimbabweans come back, if they are to come back at the end of the year, they must be coming back to take up pieces of land, to start up farming on a full-time basis. So, what I can say is this is not going to be a straw in the park. It's not. These guys are going to resist. But we must be ready to take them head on. In the same way that they did with the white farmers. So the honeymoon is over, my comrades. Zimbabweans deserve their land. Tell us how we are going to redistribute it, or we'll take it. And indeed we'll take it. We will see if you will be able to kill the millions of Zimbabweans who are going to take back their land from a partisan and elitist minority. So we are putting that program into motion as we speak. The other problem that we are also going to deal with, so that when our comrades come back from South Africa, when our brothers come back and our sisters come back, they are able to enjoy the resources, is confronting corruption and looting. In June 2020, we registered the Zimbabwe Anti-Corruption Citizen Task Force, which is a citizens movement where we welcome everyone and all to take part. It being a platform that will demand transparency, that will demand accountability, that will also make a follow-up on corruption cases, that will also make sure that all corruption cases are dealt with effectively by the police and also by the Zimbabwe Anti-Corruption Commission. And if need be, that we seek private prosecution. So we are also activating the Zimbabwe Anti-Corruption Citizens Task Force as a measure to make sure that we create a conducive environment for the return of Zimbabweans, making sure that when they come back, we would have dealt with corruption effectively. Because as we speak, like I've said, the comrades are in an overdrive to loot and steal. Because they are last supper. Because they are not sure of the outcome of the 2023 elections. So they have set up a table for themselves, for the few. So we have to disrupt the feasting. We have to turn over the tables. And this we are going to do through the Zimbabwe Anti-Corruption Citizens Task Force. Then the last 3 interventions that we are going to put into motion are: 1, in regards to political violence that we witnessed in the run-up to the by-elections, as we also suspect that we are going to have unprecedented levels of violence in 2023. We are also going to engage the National Peace and Reconciliation Commission, the police, and the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission, together with other political parties, to share with them what we think must be done between now and 2023. But we are also going to find ways to engage our ZANU-PF comrades, to tell them in more certain terms that no, as much as we are peace-loving, as much as we don't want to provoke anyone, but if they tried to attack any one of us, whether that person belongs to CCC, to the MDC, to whichever party, including those who belong in FEEZ, we are not going to fold our hands and read that chapter in Bible. No. We are going to defend ourselves. That must be clear with the ZANU-PF. They don't have a monopoly on that front. They don't have a monopoly at all. Tainzwa vamwe nengo dzepolitibhuro yeZANU-PF nemaminista vachiti tinodzokera kusango. Sango ripi? Renyu. Hamuna sango renyu megaka. Sango ramuri kufunga kuti munodzokera iri. Munotozoshamisika maona kuti vamwe vanga vakatokumirirawo futi kusango iro. So you must stop that nonsense of moving around and say, no, we are going to go back to war. So you think you can wage a war on Zimbabweans and kill the rest of all Zimbabweans? While all Zimbabweans will fold their hands and say, no, please, ZANU-PF, don't do this to us, please, war. No. We are not going to do that. So we call for peace. We call for tolerance. We call for coexistence. But let ZANU-PF be rest assured that violence begets violence and peace begets peace. So our security forces must also appreciate that we are human. We are human beings. If any human being is cornered, it is bound to retaliate. So let's stay in peace. Let's coexist peacefully. So we take this opportunity to invite all progressive parties and organizations to come and partner us as we go out to engage the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission, the police, and the National Peace and Reconciliation Commission, to hear from them on the practical measures that they are putting in place to make sure that there won't be any politically motivated violence in 2023. Then we are also going to engage the Chinese ambassador in the coming days. We will tell you as and when we are going, but very soon we'll be going to engage the Chinese ambassador to tell him in no uncertain terms, we are not diplomats, we are politicians, that the Chinese nationals in Zimbabwe must behave or ship out. They cannot continue to disregard our laws. They cannot continue to disregard our culture and customs. They cannot continue to displace our people. Yes, we know that they are doing this with the full blessings of the Zanu-PF leadership. But as for the Zanu-PF leadership, we are going to deal with them in 2023. And it's not very far, because we are sure that in not more than 12 months, we are going to have an election. And we are going to deal with the Zanu-PF once and for all. So, the Chinese must behave and know that their Zanu-PF accomplices will be in opposition very soon. They must respect our chiefs. They must respect our sacred places. They must respect our laws, our culture, and customs. So that's also what we are going to do. Then as we go to the 2023 elections, where we want every Zimbabwean, including those in the diaspora, to come back home and vote. We are also going to work with other political parties to make sure that we get political and electoral reforms ahead of the 2023 polls. And that includes that ZEC must put in place mechanisms to register Zimbabweans in the diaspora, even if they are not going to vote in the diaspora, but to register them, and so that they also have an opportunity in 2023 to come back home and vote. So we are going to write to the Minister of Home Affairs and ask them to put in place an initiative to give our people, wherever they are, in South Africa, in Botswana, and Zambia, national identity documents and passports, and that also ZEC registers them wherever they are, so that they will be able to come back on that day of the election to vote and go back to their bases. So, comrades, this is what we are going to embark on. Now that taakunobata pachingwa chevaruma, our comrades in the Front for Economic Emancipation in Zimbabwe, and those whom we are going to work with, you must brace for a backlash. They are not going to take it easily that we are going to demand a share for all the Zimbabweans in terms of ownership of our resources. This is what they are going to make sure that they fight against like they have never done before. So we ask all progressive Zimbabweans that even if you don't support Tsenengamu, this is not a Tsenengamu issue. Even if you don't support our party, the Front for Economic Emancipation in Zimbabwe, you cannot go against yourselves by supporting corruption. You cannot go against yourselves by not wanting to be given land. You cannot go against yourselves by not wanting to enjoy the economic resources, our natural resources, our minerals, We don't care about where you vote for or who you vote for. Just support this economic revolution for your own sake and for the sake of your children. So on the 18th of April, comrades, we will meet in Ngezi. We will meet at Zimplatz. We will give further details as we proceed in terms of how we are going to be doing it, on how we are going to be celebrating the Independence Day at Zimplatz to signify the genesis of an unstoppable economic revolution. I thank you.